Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Norma Dumont moves to 3-1 in her UFC tenure, and she spoils the featherweight debut of one Aspen Ladd, one that has been out for about 2 years, coming off a major knee reconstructive surgery. But we're going to talk about that here in a second, folks. I do want to give you a heads up that the feel-good story of the week, Lupe Godinez, was aiming to make history against the one of Carolina. She was aiming to pick up 2 wins in 7 calendar days. That would be the #1 record. 3 fewer days than Khamzat Chimaev, who was the big media push, the big media star after he picked up those back-to-back wins in 10 days, folks. My name is Derick G. I am your host, and checking in with me, as always, is the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, AJ. Man, you coming off a big 5-0. Welcome to the Above 500 Club, brother. How are you feeling? Victory lap time? What are we thinking?
Whoo, man, not victory lap yet, Derick. There's still some fights to be had. There's still some fights to be watched, brother. We ain't celebrating yet, but I do got to tell you, my brother, it feels good to finally get back. Back in the earlier in the year, you know, I was taking a little bit more risk, a little bit more, trying to go for that little bit more reward. But honestly, I'm still staying true to the way I do things, and thankfully it's been paying off, brother. How you living?
I mean, absolutely. First, let me comment on that one, man. I say that the philosophy of somebody who is going to be consistently good in life, right, is that you have a short-term memory. You don't really remember when you're doing good, and you don't remember when you're doing bad. It just is what it is, baby. Shout out, bless Max Holloway, man. But listen, man, I'm doing all right. I'm coming off a 2-3 week. A couple of my upside picks, my long shot plays, they didn't really pan out, but that's okay, man. We have one robbery report that we need to talk about, AJ, because what I do for myself, because I'm such a junkie for this combat sports stuff, is I log my picks all across the board for prelims, everything, the whole 9. Obviously, in this pick'em tournament, we're only worrying ourselves with the main card, but I go prelims in the whole 9, man. And I went 4-1 on the prelims, man. And the one fight I lost was the Ramazan Ami versus Danny Roberts, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second, man, because I don't know what a robbery is if that was not one. Either way, folks, I want to make sure that before we get into things, you drop a like, you subscribe, interact with us at bloodywaterpodcast.com. And one of the best things you can do for the algorithm, folks, in terms of boosting us up, getting our views up, our ratings up, is you can go over to Apple Podcasts and rate us 5 stars or wherever your preferred podcast platform and destination is. So if you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, leave a comment. On a regular podcast form, rate us, review us, and let your friends know, man, about the Bloody Water Podcast, because we here to make the green, baby. AJ, officially, since earlier, in the year when we was doing things, or earlier last year when we first started doing this head-to-head, we are now both officially over 50% accuracy in our picks. That means the Bloody Water Podcast, through and through, is the source you need to come to go get your picks. Enough said, man. Enough said. All right, AJ, man. Before we get into things, I think you know one thing that we need to do, and that is the rankings review, my man. So let's hit the music. All right, brother. So get this thing going. AJ, I have a dilemma on our hands. I think we have a dilemma on our hands, because for this segment today, the 60-second rankings review, I want to talk about the heavyweight division. I want to talk about one man specifically, the Pitbull, Andrei Arlovski, ageless, timeless man. You picked him to win his fight against Carlos Felipe, and he got the job done, man. And he looked so impressive doing so. I know the man is over 40 years old. I believe he's 42 years old or something of that nature. He said he's not going to fight till 50, but he just fought a man who arguably should be in the top 15. Felipe was my number 15th ranked fighter in my own personal ranking. So to me, Arlovski kind of just made his push to get into the rankings. But I have a question for you, AJ, something that we need to ask ourselves about. Can we potentially place Arlovski in the heavyweight division flushly, aptly, deservingly so, when we have killers like King Kong Alexander Romanov outside of the top 15? Right now, as it stands, AJ, your number 15 is Sergey Spivak. Mine is Felipe. Your 14 is Sergey Pavlovich. Mine is as well. 13 is Abdurakhimov for me. Blagoy Ivanov for you. Does Arlovski, can he surpass any of those fighters in your opinion? Do you think, is he going to be in your rankings come Tuesday? What do you think, man? Just give me the whole entire spill on it.
Man, yeah, I was doing, so I was getting ready for the show, doing, matchmaking and stuff, trying to figure it out where, I want to see him go. I want to see him matched up. And I'm realizing that even on Tapology, they got him number 15. I'm like, damn, I don't even think I have Arlovski in my top 15 at all. So I had to pull it up and check. And I'm like, man, this dude's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Going back in the day, the Pitbull is legend. And I think so. I'm not going to spoil the picks I have coming up later on, but I do think he needs to be in that mix, fighting for some for some space up there. And there's one name that, at least when I'm looking at it right now, man, Blagoy Ivanov, at least it just hasn't done much in recent memory where I think he deserves that spot. So, in my own mind, Arlovski's going to be able to crack the top 15 at number 15. A couple other people are going to be moving up, but it's hard, man, when you have killers like that and such a deep, literally of like hit list of killers in the heavyweight division that can do some crazy stuff, and a bunch of people that are outside of the top 15. It's going to be hard to be cracking people in and out like that. What do you think?
I agree with you, man. It's going to be difficult, and I don't know if he's going to crack my top 15 come Tuesday. And the reason why is because, you beat a dude number 15 in my rankings, right? So logically speaking, that's like it should be an easy supplant. He took 15. That's what I'll talk about all the time, right? Challenge someone for their number, take their number. However, if you look at the recent history of Arlovski, I believe he's about 3-2 in his last 5. I can't justify that. I have to bump up Romanov because he's 15-0, destroying everybody in his path. Like, the way that you get your wins are a little bit different. And for Arlovski, let's be honest with you, AJ, he's been fed some of the young guns, some of the young killers for real, but he has not faced a Romanov or anything like that. Some of the actual top-tier prospects that we have moving along the rankings. And I think for good reason, because Arlovski is a tough outing for anybody that you put in front of him, man. But all right, folks, that is the 60 seconds rankings review. I think we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with Andrei Arlovski, the pit bull, man, the ageless inevitable wonder, man. The man is inevitable. Like, he just keeps winning. And real fast before we move on from this segment, AJ, I just wanted to ask you, we're going to talk about it legitimately, when we do our actual main card breakdown, but how worried were you come round 3 when Arlovski was gassing out and Felipe was starting to gain a little momentum?
Very, Derick. I was very worried, man. Arlovski, I was doing hot that rest of the night before. Arlovski was looking good, looking a little bit better, or it started to peter off a little bit in round 2. And round 3, I saw him just start winging punches, ducking that head. And all I was thinking, I was like, man, why does Felipe not just start throwing uppercuts? Like, throw that feint jab, uppercut. He would have had Arlovski out, man. He was looking real tired.
Oh yeah, man. So we'll talk about more of that in just one moment, folks. But let's move on to our next segment. And of course, I do it all the time, AJ. I brought the photo up a little early, so I'm gonna take it down. We need to talk about the fighter of the night, AJ. There's so many good performances here. And before we actually highlight the fighter of the night, let's talk a little prelim rundown, man. I wasn't necessarily correct in my pick for fight of the night because there was no fight of the night. But Bruno Silva versus Andrew Sanchez, man. Back and forth, barn burner. I'm going to bring it up more in the photo collection. Nut shots galore, man. Keith Peterson, finally he did give a point. He took a point to from Andrew Sanchez, excuse me. But listen, man, if you get 3-4 free nut shots and, eye pokes and fence grabs, the whole gambit, you might as well use it if the referee ain't going to call it, right? Either way, man, what did you think about the matchup, man? Bruno Silva is a force to be reckoned with.
Right, exactly, man. A force to be reckoned with, and be able to walk through the kind of damage that he was taking as well. Not only that, but looking good on the ground, man. Andrew Sanchez is known for his groundwork, and Bruno Silva stayed calm, did his thing, and then had the power, man. Had the power to go through and actually get the finish going on late in the round. And he literally looked like he took Sanchez's soul out there. He was like, Sanchez was breathing hard, looking heavy. And Bruno Silva was able to get it done, man. It was pretty impressive. And like I said, you can walk through 3-4 nut shots. Man, that's a kudos to yourself.
Yeah, man. You know what's interesting about that, AJ, is that some would say you hit a man in the nuts enough times, he's just going to knock you the fuck out. And I think that's what happened in this matchup, man. Pissed Bruno Silva off, man. Gave him a little extra motivation. Lupi Godinez, man, the feel-good story of the week, man. She didn't get it done against Luana Carolina. And folks, on the podcast over here, both of us, we said, I think we're leaning for Godinez. However, I put out a recantment of my statement when I wrote a Substack article, which you go check out at the link in, on the Instagram bio at D496. But I wrote a Substack, a little, article just talking about, hey, I think Luana Carolina can play upset here. She could play spoiler. She has all the intangibles, the tools, the height, the reach, the size. She has everything, the experience. And that's seemed to be, what happened. It just looked like Godinez was a strawweight fighting a flyweight. That's just what it looked like to me. And the outcome was Luana Carolina gets the job done via decision. Now, the question becomes this, AJ. Do you think that, we're praising these fighters when they're taking these big risks, these big chances? Oh, you're going to fight twice in 7 days. That's crazy. Why would you do that? After coming off of a performance bonus victory, right? And you go and do this and you lose a fight. Now you just lost a fight when you didn't need to step up. Yeah, you scratched the company's back. Will they scratch Lupi Godinez's back in return? We don't know. What did you think about this whole entire, the situation that we have here with Godinez and Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments to go both ways on this one, and I actually like what Lupi Godinez did. I think there's no, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. There's nothing, not gained if you're not out there actually taking risks, man. And I mean, it was fighting up. So a lot of people in her mind, or a lot of people in our minds, not really that much of a loss for Lupi Godinez. And on paper, we were even saying it. On paper, Carolina looks like she should have this in the bag, but Lupi Godinez put up one hell of a fight first round and two, and then started to really fade in round three. And that's when Carolina was able to start showing her moves, man, getting it done. And I do think per history of the UFC, when you scratch their back, they scratch your back, and I think she's going to have good things coming for her, man. What do you think of the fight?
Well, I hope that is true. I hope that the UFC does do something nice in return for Lupi Godinez. But in terms of the fight, Godinez, she showed up, man. She came up strong, very valiant effort, and I was pretty worried for the first round, right? Then come round two, Luana's having a little more success, not necessarily just getting stuck on the ground, because in the first round she was on the ground. But Carolina, I just think it was kind of what we were talking about on the pre-show, man, where we said, like, oh, so you think you're just going to come up a weight class and just come beat me? Like, I'm just some walkover. You got people on Twitter all day talking about Carolina's not UFC caliber talent and all that. And I think that she probably took it personal and had a little bit of, what do they call that when in football, man? Like, like motivation, right? Whatever you want to call it, that stuff where your opponent is talking smack and you're using it as motivation. There's a phrase for it. I'm blanking on it right now, but the point is, I think Luana Carolina had a lot of that, and she was very happy when she picked up the win, man. I believe she's either 2 or 3-1 in her UFC career, so it's very sneaky because she's been written off after the Ariane Lipski knee bar, which now seems to be a little bit of a fluky win. I don't want to say, listen, a win is a win is a win, but she hasn't been able to kind of repeat those performances in her last couple fights. But I will just say, one of those situations, this is another one in terms of betting, in terms of wagering, folks, where you do not let the narrative, the beautiful story, because that's what the UFC sells itself on, is stories. You do not let that impact the logic that comes down to placing a wager and making money, because money has no emotions or feelings or any of that, man. So that's what we try to do our best at over here, right, AJ, is to try to just be unemotional, just see it how we see it, and not let our bias persuade us. Just a couple more, AJ. Danaa Bakari, I think we both said it. The man is a storm, and you got to walk through it. And I'll tell you what, he put a former UFC veteran or current UFC veteran Brandon Davis to sleep very quickly in the first round with a big right hook this time, AJ. It wasn't the patented left hook. It was the right hook this time, I believe. What do you think about the performance, AJ?
Man, wild, man. I told you, Bakari, you got to remember his name, folks. He might be fighting on the prelims. This is going to be fighting for some gold sometime soon if he keeps his winning ways up. And this dude, man, he can do it. We were saying before, doesn't waste too much energy. He can hit you hard going forward, backward. We all thought it was left, but it couldn't cross. It was a right this time, and he did some absolute damage, bro. Yeah, this was a sleeper for a reason, folks. You got to pay attention out here. I'm giving you some heat.
Exactly. Keep sleeping on us. We're going to wake you up, man. We're going to wake you up. And Danaa Bakari joined Bruno Silva as the 2 performance bonuses on the prelims, man. So, but those were, it wasn't my sleeper, but I did say we were going to see some violence in the Silva fight. So I think we called both of those pretty good, man. Ariane Carnelossi, man. She gets a big win over Estela Nunez. Nunez, she put on a valiant effort. Clearly a striker, where Carnelossi is the big pit bull bruiser. You know what I'm saying? And listen, 4th finish in the last 5 wins, moves to 2-1 in the UFC, man. She's jacked, built like a brick house, and a lot of people are talking about, because she's passed 6 USADA tests in the year 2021. However, there's a couple fighters who on Twitter have been making the rumblings of saying that just because she has passed her test this year doesn't mean that she hasn't failed them in the past. And it was King Casey O'Neill specifically made that statement. What'd you think about the win, AJ?
It was good, man. She looked solid. Early fight in the night, did really well. Got the I think it was a submission finish.
Yep.
I'm not mistaken. Yeah, looked really good. And yeah, she's absolutely jacked. I'm curious to see her USADA testing back in the day, because going back to Picogram Jones, just because it's not in your system right now doesn't mean it didn't benefit you when it was in your system before. So it's interesting to see.
Something always to think about, folks. And but at the end of the day, I will say I'm always excited when I see one of her fights because she brings it, man. Even if it's not the most exciting thing in the world, she brings it. She's got a lot of energy, a lot of effort, all that good stuff, man. Hustle fighter is something that I would like to call her. And okay, AJ, when we bring up the photo report, I'll talk about this robbery that was Danny Roberts over Ramzan Emeev. Terrible. All right, fighter of the night, AJ. The intangibles, right? This is what counts here. This is the fighter that had the best performance, the best storyline. Everything just went hand in cuff to see this fighter through and through be the fighter of the night. I want to know for you, AJ, who is your fighter of the night for UFC Vegas 40?
Man, for UFC Vegas 40, Derick, my fighter of the night is A10 Jim Miller, bro. I almost couldn't go anywhere else with this one. A vet showed up. The wily veteran came to play. Hurt in the beginning of the round one, man, and still was able to survive that and get an absolute bomb of a finish in round two. Man, he just proved you can't count these old dudes out. Everybody, all the casuals are thinking this dude's finished. He loses this fight, he's gonna retire, all this stuff. Everything was out there except Jim Miller stayed true to who he was. And man, he said it himself in his post-fight interview, I'm here because I like this. I'm here because I want to be here. And that's like when he was talking in his post-fight, that was the biggest thing when he was saying, this is what I like, bro. Like I would love being able to walk down this aisle, walk down to the cage and feel it. It feels like I'm walking my children to the aisle of marriage, bro. This is like something that deeply is inherent in this man. He's passionate about it. I love to see it. His opponent, Gonzalez came out, and don't get me wrong, Gonzalez hurt him in the first round, but he came out through a lazy axe kick with a hand down, and oh man, A10 Jim Miller saw the opening and absolutely blasted a bomb of a left hand in there, man. It was almost poetry in motion for the old guy coming in. And I was watching a lot of Gonzalez's interviews saying, oh yeah, I was calling out a vet. I'm going to make this dude retired, all this stuff. Man, not for a dude like that. And not only that, A10 Jim Miller, man, he's out there breaking records. I think he has the most fights, if not only in lightweight division in the UFC. I'm pretty sure it's just lightweight. We're going to have to check the statistics. But either way, man, breaking records, out here dropping bombs. A10 Jim Miller, for those reasons and for his passion of the fight, he's my fighter of the night, man. What about you, Derick?
Listen, man, that was great. That sounded amazing right there. Shout out to A10 Jim Miller, man. We got to cut that as a promo right there, man. I will say my fighter of the night, AJ, is going to be somebody who did not let the showboating, not let the smack talk get to their head, and they just put on a clinic of a performance, and her name is the Beast, Manon Fiorot. You know what I'm saying? I got to throw a little French twang on it. You know what I'm saying? But listen, folks, let's talk about it. Manon Fiorot, she fought a Mayra Bueno Silva, and I said it coming into this fight. I said, this is the big test. If she could pass this test with the flying colors, I think we're ready to really stiffen up that competition and maybe, just maybe, that claim of the next great hope that could potentially challenge the champion, Valentina Shevchenko, the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? My GOAT right there. Maybe that's coming into fruition just a little bit. I didn't see it in this fight. I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. But a couple more fights and maybe we'll get there. For Manon Fiorot, man, she just picked apart Mayra Bueno Silva, so much so to where Bueno Silva thought that the only feasible option for her to contend in the fight was to put her hands behind her back, shake her head a million times, being like, no, what was that? Eat 50,000 side kicks to the gut and just take it and basically be immobilized with a technician that is Fiorot. When it comes to the kickboxing, man, it's just clear. There's levels to this thing. And Fiorot, though she is a little, she has some work to do in terms of the stand-up, just with the hand specifically. She is a versatile, multi-option threat that can very much daze, confuse, and paralyze her opponent with all the different looks that she's giving and the amount of output that she is willing to put out. So with that being said, she came into a smash spot here. She did not let the taunting of Bueno Silva draw her out of her game, which then shows maturity to me. And that is something you're going to need in this flyweight division as you move up that tier of difficulty. So when we're talking about the 3 big wins that she has now, 2 of them via knockout. When it came to the real test against Bueno Silva, didn't really look like she had her hurt at all, but I think that this is going to be good confidence building in the mind for the mental fortitude of a Manon Fiorot coming out of France, doesn't speak the language, coming up, zero gain approach. coming to take heads, man. And this is why Manon Fiorot is my fighter of the night. I just think that this is going to be a performance we're going to look back on months from now, maybe a year or two from now, and say that was the catalyst that built the true star power that was Manon Fiorot. I cannot say it enough, AJ. You went with the old wily vet and Jim Miller. I went with the young gun and Manon Fiorot. Two different sides of the table, but I do think we have greatness on both ends. So for that reason, the beast, Manon Fiorot, is my fighter of the night, folks. So if you like the segment, all the good stuff, you know what I'm saying? If you dig the, not the fighter of the night, not the performance bonus, UFC could tell you that the fighter of the night is something tried and true, special, unique to the Bloody Water podcast. Give us a like, subscribe, all the good stuff if you like that stuff. All right, AJ, let's talk about some photos, my man. You was talking about stats. I got stats for you, big dog. Starting off in 2008, Jim Miller's UFC career began, UFC 89, and here we are, man. What is that, 13 years later, man? Something ridiculous like that. Jim Miller officially 38 fights, most fights in the UFC, 22 second most wins in the UFC, 34 the most fights in the lightweight division, and 20 with the most wins in the lightweight division. Cowboy Cerrone and him are neck and neck, you know what I'm saying? So the more Cowboy fights, it's basically going to be like, Drew Brees retired and then Tom Brady now passed the record. If Drew Brees were somehow to, come out of retirement, they would just go back and forth like they had been doing for so many years, AJ. Tell me what you think about the stats. I know you just gave the wicked promo for Jim Miller, but let's talk about these stats that we got right here.
Man, it's crazy because even on the broadcast, they were saying that Jim Miller wants to be because he's one of the only fighter or one of three fighters. I think it's him, Brock Lesnar, and somebody else that fought on UFC 100 and UFC 200. And he's like, I want to be the only one that's able to fight on 1, 2, and 300. Yes, and Jim Miller, the stats are incredible. And I mean, most fights in the UFC, I don't even think the majority of all human beings have that many fights in their entire lives, nonetheless inside a cage with a real deal, actual killers out there. So yeah, man, I mean, Jim Miller deserves everything that's coming to him. I mean, he's had a rough streak. What I really like about his story, man, he's had a rough streak before. There was I was looking at his record review, and there was a couple times where he was losing like 4 in a row. And nowadays that can get you cut, but now, man, he's back on top again.
Goes to show, man, indomitable will, right? The persistence to say this is what I love doing, so I'm going to keep doing it regardless of how many young guns you put in front of me. And they said, why did you take the fight for Erick Gonzalez? And he says, this is, like you said, this is just what I love to do, man. This is what I do. I love this job, all that good stuff. And when we were talking about experience, man, I said that was the intangible for an Arlovski and for Jim Miller. So when Erick Gonzalez got in there talking reckless, it's like, man, you know who's in front of you right here, bro? He's seen a million Erick Gonzalez's in his time, No disrespect, but that is a testament to the greatness of A10 Jim Miller. All right, AJ, I talked about it earlier. You never want to see this, man. This is just nut shot after nut shot. This is writhing. This is pain. This is agony. And AJ, as a man, that those things take a toll. Regardless if you say, all right, I'll just take 30 seconds and keep going, it still gives you a little something, man. You're not right. You're not 100% at that point in the fight. Now, this is a collection photo, AJ, so I'm going to take this one down, show you the next one, and you tell me the correlation, what you think overall. This led to the anger, the outrage, the outlash that turned into a TKO victory against Andrew Sanchez. Some would say KO. I'll call it a TKO because I believe it was standing. But the aftermath, the result, Bruno Silva gets a black belt for zero jiu-jitsu, for coming back from a nutshot galore fest, man, from just being the great athlete, the great fighter, and the man who is not willing to give up. He got his black belt after. You've talked about this before, AJ. I think it's time for another rant from you, man. What do you think overall of this photo collection?
I mean, going back to the first one, we've all, if you're a man, you know that pain. It hurts like none other. I tell all my lady friends, somebody's a guy's ever giving you shit, kick him right in the nuts. He will drop like that so fast without any hesitation. It hurts. And I think where Andrew Sanchez messed up is that last one wasn't as flush as the first two. And that's when Bruno Silva was able to be like, all right, bro, we taking this on. I'm tired of this shit now. You didn't hit me hard enough, bro. We going. But yeah, I mean, we've seen this multiple times, Derick. The second picture, a black belt for literally Bruno Silva has zero submission wins. No jiu-jitsu in the octagon for this fight at all. And I mean, it makes sense when like somebody like Tyron Woodley gets his black belt for choking out Darren Till with I believe it was a Darce, it might have been an arm in triangle, I forget. But like that makes sense. To me, that totally makes sense. And even coming from my background and a karate background, you get your belts by either doing the kata, doing the fancy little movements, or stepping in there with somebody and fighting some people, man. And that's how it gets done. So it makes sense when you're, doing it karate style. But if you're going to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you got to see some jiu-jitsu, man. We're diminishing the value of what these black belts are worth. And for somebody like me who's not that good at jiu-jitsu, and for a lot of other people out there, it makes you think like, oh, I could just go get a black belt, no problem. Like, obviously, I know that's not the case. I got to step in there with some real deal killers. But to the casual fans, it's really diminishing the value, and it almost hurts the sport. You know, it's like in boxing how they have 13 different champions for every single division. It's like, bro, like how special are these champions? How special are these black belts now?
Yeah.
It's rough to see, and you hate to see it as a dedicated fan, man. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree with you. I just want to make sure, just because I don't have the context, they didn't really talk about it. I believe that's the jiu-jitsu belt. It looks like a jiu-jitsu belt to me. They were talking about it as if it was a jiu-jitsu belt. You know what I'm saying? So I agree, man. You got to really do something special for it, man. You know, like when you go get your stripes, man, it's because you're putting on in the gym, you're doing that stuff. You got to showcase your jiu-jitsu. That's all I'm asking for. Just showcase the jiu-jitsu a little bit, and then we can then be like, all right, makes sense. But zero jiu-jitsu, you knock the dude out and then you get your black belt. I don't see the correlation with jiu-jitsu and knocking somebody out personally, but it could also go to the mental fortitude and the comeback nature of the victory. Like that could be part of it. So respect to Bruno Silva. Absolutely no disrespect intended here. It's more about how many people are just getting handed out black belts left and right just because of a win, you know. So, all right, AJ, we move on to, I believe this is the Bellator 268, right? Corey Anderson, man, and Ryan Bader, blast from the past. Look at these two former UFC studs, man. And Corey Anderson made easy work of Ryan Bader, man, the former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion in Bellator. He joined this light heavyweight Grand Prix in order to get a rematch with Vadim Nemkov, who took his belt. And it doesn't look like that's going to be happening, man, because Corey Anderson put it on him in 51 seconds. Give me your take on this photo, AJ.
I think DC said it best. I want to beat Ryan Bader's ass. He's the easiest fight in the division. And it's crazy to see that these guys who in the UFC, man, were pretty much killers. Now they're top dogs in the Bellator division, and still it's like you said, a blast from the past, Erick. It's interesting to see. But I mean, Corey Anderson got it done, and he's looking good. And even Ryan Bader looking a little, with the six-pack, man. Bader with the six-pack is interesting to see. But yeah, Corey Anderson looked at 51 seconds. I mean, not really much you can say besides that power is still there. Bader tried to hit him with the shoulder roll, but sometimes that goes right above and you catch somebody in the chin and they just go right out. Corey Anderson looked really good, got it done, and still had that speed as well as the power, man. Very impressive win.
I will just say Corey Anderson, man, it's just incredible to see the success he's having in Bellator. You know, when you're not able to be that top dog in the UFC, but you go over to Bellator and you could finally enjoy that claim to fame. You can get the respect on your name, man. You just love to see it. You love to see it. All right, AJ, this is what I was talking about in the Manon Fiorot fight. Mayra Bueno Silva thinks she's Conor McGregor. If you were her coach, AJ, would you be like, hey, you're just getting hit and taunting all day. You're like not giving anything back. Like I just truly did not understand it. I was like, what is she seeing in the fight that we're not seeing? Because I get I want to draw out my opponent and make them a brawler, but clearly Fiorot wasn't falling for that the entire fight, and we just saw too much of that, man. Hands behind her back. Oh, what's up? That didn't hurt. But you got to give something back. Just if you were her coach, what are you telling her?
I'm telling her to cut the shit, man. Like, why are you doing this? This girl's literally making you a punching bag. Like, if you want to do that, cool. But, like, draw it out. Let her, throw that side kick. Hit her with the Olay, get something going to where she's able to actually do some damage back. Because right now, you're literally just looking like an idiot, sticking your tongue out, face down, Yeah, I mean, it looks cool on TV when people do that, and then they get the damage going after. Yeah. But that's the caveat to that. You got to get the damage after. Yeah, man, if I'm her coach, I'm telling her to cut the shit. Let's get this fight to the ground where you're king. And Fiorot actually was handling her on the ground. It was pretty impressive win. Yeah, I didn't see why Bueno Silva would be doing this, man. Didn't make sense to me at all. What do you think?
Well, listen, man, I get it when you're the Diaz brothers and you're, Nate Diaz, and you're like, what's up, motherfucker? And then you slap him in the face and hit him with the 1-2, or Nate Diaz classic on Robbie Lawler where he Stockton slaps him, yells at him, what's up, and then hits him with the 1-2 and staggers him. Like, that's when we want to see that type of showboating. When you're just getting punched up in the gut, in the face, all over. I mean, come on. And this is what I'm talking about, man, because it's like she's doing this after this is happening right here, where you're just getting, obviously this is forearm, this isn't a flush shot, but the point is, it's like, you got the bloody nose, you getting smacked up a little bit, you got to quit the showboating. She was showboating from round 1 through round 3. Like, there was no stop. It was the entire fight. So we don't even need to comment on this second photo, except just, I love when you see the photos of the ripples of the face and all that, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Poetry in motion right here. AJ, let's talk about it real fast, man. This is a cut that Danny Roberts had suffered from a short elbow from Ramazan Emeev, man. Part of the onslaught that Emeev was putting on, the grappling was mitigated just a little bit, man, but when it came to takedowns, Emeev dominated in the category. When it came to striking, I believe Emeev had the most impactful exchanges. He did everything that he did to win it, so much so to where I'm writing up, because, I do my own little, like my table where I got all the wins and losses and whatnot. So I'm writing up, Emeev, both of us, me and AJ, me and you, we both, kind of said, we think Emeev got this. We both got the pick right on that. All right, cool. I'm writing it up. And then they say split decision. And I'm just like, okay, that's a little weird. And then they say for Danny Roberts, and then I go fucking nuts. I go ballistic, because not only did I have a bet on a wager placed on this fight, which I think was robbed. I think I got robbed on that one totally. But then I go on to Twitter and see what people are talking about, and everybody's saying, tell me what 2 rounds Danny Roberts won in that fight, yet alone 3, because the split decision was 30-27 for Danny Roberts. So, robbery report, AJ, close fight. What do you think?
I mean, it was a close fight. Don't get me wrong. I had it 29-28, whatever I had 2 rounds going to Emeev.
Yeah.
Excuse the math. That's wrong, folks. It's early. But either way, I had 2 rounds going to Emeev. And I did have Danny Roberts getting the last. And I don't see that 30-27 at all. Emeev did all the damage. He was controlling the groundwork. He was looking good. Sure, Roberts had pressure, but we've talked about it a lot on this show. When you have pressure and you're just a punching bag, it doesn't count. It doesn't count at all. It should be the same as if you get a takedown and they stand right back up. Doesn't count. I was absolutely blown away. And don't get me wrong, like I said, folks, I do think it was a closer fight, but 30-27, like, somebody, come on, man. And we gotta hold these refs accountable, because not only did they take Derick's money, but they also took half of the paycheck from Emeev, who absolutely earned the victory in my eyes, man. Crazy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. So listen, man, fortunately, that's not our job, is to judge the fights. We just got to talk about them, right? But all respect to Danny Roberts, man, but I don't think he won the fight, in my humble opinion. AJ, on this picture, though, what do you think, man? More fighters need to implement the elbows. That's a nasty cut for just a little short elbow over the top, man. What do you think?
Yeah, man, and he didn't even catch him, like, with the tip of the elbow. Or let me show this side. He didn't even catch him with the tip. He caught him, like, forearm of the elbow, man. It was and it was real short, real stiff. You just saw it start bleeding down. I think the elbows are a very underrated idea, especially because with your hands, you could break your hands pretty easily, but you can't. It's pretty hard to break that elbow. I forget its radius or ulna or whatever it's called, but either way, it's hard to break it. And man, you can crack somebody on the top of the head like that and get a 3-inch gash. Yeah, man, absolutely insane. It needs to be utilized more.
What's funny is my professor, when I was doing karate, man, he would tell us, it was all like, folks, you need to understand that these knuckles on your hands, they're the most commonly known as the things that people throw and use, but what are the biggest knuckles on your body? Your knees and your elbows. You need to use them. Those are real dangerous weapons, especially in a street engagement, encounterment, something like that, right? So shout out to the elbow. Shout out to Paul Felder. I know he would love this encouragement of the elbows right here. Ariane Carnelosi, AJ, she's putting on what I just titled this picture in my notes as the squeeze right there. When you got somebody and you're on their back and you just put the squeeze on them, there's a difference, because you don't want to burn your arms out, man, on a half-ass choke that you're not going to get. But when you got it, it's a great feeling. And you could see Nunez just right there, where you can't breathe, your eyes are closed, and you're just like, in your mind, so many things are racing. But the number one thing is that you're thinking about is, let me just tap so I can fucking stop this agony, man. Carnelosi put that squeeze on it, man. What you think of this photo?
Absolutely, Derick. In a body triangle as well. She can't breathe from the gut. Like, literally, you see the bicep flex. And I think she's got bigger arms than me. Like, damn, bro. Carnelosi's looking good in this picture. She's stacked. And, I mean, it's so crazy whenever in your mind, the rear naked choke gets on you. What do? 2-on-1. Try to rip that hand off. And every time you see him trying to pull the neck apart, that's when it's over, man. This is a great picture. And you can see the grit on Carnelosi's face, really trying to pull in, man. I love to see it. This is awesome, man. Absolutely,
man. I agree. And last photo that I have before we hit some actual main card breakdown, AJ, is I just want to know, is this justified? You see Arlovski, hands raised, and Felipe giving the what? And actually, if you listen to the audio, he's screaming the whole time. He's saying, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I won the fight. What the fuck? And I'm just like, Bro, it was not that close for you to sit there and think that. Listen, I think Felipe's problem has been, and he's been able to get away with it a couple times with some split decisions and some just unanimous decisions, but the lack of volume, man, all that pressure, but you need to throw more, you need to go more, and I don't think he took advantage of that enough in round 2. He probably did in round 3, but in round 2, I think that was the deciding factor. Arlovski clearly got round 1 and 2, and in his post-fight presser, Arlovski said, what'd he say? He was all like, listen, man, like this dude hit me with some body shots. Thank God I survived. Like very humble in that. And obviously we're going to give a quick little breakdown when we hit this in just a second. But just give me your take, just a quick take on the shock of Carlos Felipe.
I told you, Derick, you got to finish Arlovski to actually get the dub on him. And I don't know what Felipe was thinking. And the only thing I can think is sometimes in your mind when you're doing it, you're winning. Like you're playing the game plan you want to play. You think it's going well, but from the outside perspective, we get a little bit bigger of a picture instead of that's just in there. So that's like the only reason I can see where Felipe is coming from. But yeah, I had it going for Arlovski as well, man. 1 and 2, and then he just gassed.
Yeah, simple as that. I mean, I'm 42 years old. What more can you ask of the man? But all right, folks, that is the photo collection. So once again, if you like the segment, drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Bloody Water Podcast on Instagram, Bloody Water Pod on Twitter, and just go to the main website, man, bloodywaterpodcast.com. You can find rankings, you can find our articles, you could find all the YouTube videos, listen for free, everything, man. Go ahead. Do I got to sell you anymore? What are we talking about here? All right, AJ, let's talk about it, man. Nate, the Train Landwehr, man, gets a anaconda choke submission round 3 against Ludovit, Mr. Highlight Klein. There were no highlights to be found in this matchup, AJ, and it's kind of what I predicted a little bit. And folks, just if you tuned in with us last week, the Julian Marquez versus Jordan Wright bout got scrapped on weight making day. Julian Marquez with non-COVID related health issues, which some people would often say probably had tough time making weight. That's neither here nor there, but this was the replacement, man. Ludovit Klein, he's a technician, and when he gets under pressure, man, when somebody says, I'm not going to let you fight at your slow fighting pace, I'm going to pressure you, I'm not going to let you get your timing down, he doesn't really have too much success, not in the UFC at least, man. Nate Landwehr, a former N1 global champion, listen, man, he put some respect back on his name, and he showed people why his nickname is the Train and why he is a real problem in this featherweight division. What did you think of this matchup, AJ?
I liked it, Derick. It was a lot of fun, man. Nate Landwehr came out a lot calmer than I was expecting him to come out. But then really once the round started going, round 2, round 3 started, he really started to pick it up and proved why he's, like you said, why he's nicknamed the Train, man. That locomotion was going. And late Landwehr, man, he had the pressure. Klein was playing a dangerous game, reaching for the ground, whenever they're in the clinch and he's trying to reach for the ground and not catch a knee to the face. I think that's a stalling tactic that is very dangerous. You should not be doing that. Always protect your face. Always protect your grill. If you learned anything from Brown Bear Clark, man, gotta keep the hands up, man. Watch that grill. But no, man, it looked good. I mean, Nate Landwehr had the pressure, and I think the only reason that he was able to get that finish is just because Ludovit Klein was just so damn tired that he was not able to fight that choke off anymore. He fought it off really good in the first attempt. Yeah. He was able to keep the hand up, get a little bit of space for that, air to cap or the blood to cap going blood to go past. Excuse me, past the choke. But, Nate Landwehr actually had the pressure going. It was a good fight. I actually had it scored 2 rounds to nil going into the third. What about you? Because I see a lot of times on the UFC posts or where they put up the Twitter people, and they were saying it's 1-1 going into the third. How did you have it scored, Erick?
I had it 2-0 for Nate Landwehr, man. I thought he was putting the pressure on Klein, wasn't letting him fight his fight. And what was most important is that for every one, nice little clean shot Klein would give him, Nate Landwehr was just putting the volume on him, man, pressuring him. It was a beautiful performance, man. And this was Landwehr's first win since May 16 of 2020 against Darren Elkins, man. The damage when he put on that star-studded performance. He moves to 2-2 in the UFC, and he says, listen, man, that was my first 4-fight contract, UFC, give me another 4-fight contract. Let's get it on, man. Arguably, his post-fight interview was more entertaining than the main event that we got tonight or on Saturday night, man, because it makes you forget, because when you watch him fight, you're like, oh, look at this killer, and then you forget, oh, this dude's from Tennessee, man. This is a Southern boy. He's a party man, He comes out there saying, yeah, man, I still got power in these hands, man. I can't do the good Southern accent and all that, man, but shout out Nate Landwehr. Always a fan favorite. You love to see it, man. I just need to ask you on your pick, when you picked Landwehr on this, how confident were you, man? Because now that the deed is done, it seems like you knew something that nobody else did. Klein went into this matchup. He opened up as a minus 280 favorite, and come round 2, I believe the live odds were minus 400 for Landwehr. So what made you so confident in this pick, AJ?
At the beginning, I wasn't that confident, man. I was going at it. I honestly think Ludovit Klein, if he would have played his game, I said this before in the pre-show, folks, if you're listening, these two styles are each other's kryptonite. Like you have that dude who is just full power, full explosion, gonna keep pressuring you, who can, if you're a sniper, take that step back pull, hit him with the counter, out. Lights out. Israel Adesanya is a good example of it. Happens all the time where he lets the guy come in and then bam, hits him with a shot. Or, late Landwehr is able to get the best of it and he just keeps that pressure up and doesn't let you fight your fight, doesn't let you get your timing. And that's what happened in this one, man. It was, I honestly was just thinking Nate Landwehr the whole time was going to be walking forward, and Klein didn't have the power to get it done unless he set him up with that fake, the feint number one, and then come up with a head kick over the top. But we just didn't see it happen, man. Nate Landwehr kept that pressure going. And I was definitely, like I said, not as confident in the beginning, but once the fight started going, I was like, all right, man, we're going to get this dub right here.
And that's similar to Landwehr, man. His confidence was just growing and growing as the fight was going on. And I would just say this, the thing that I think happened, in my opinion, I don't know shit, but in my opinion, from watching, from the outside looking in, when you're sitting there and you're trying to counter-strike and you're trying to set things up, right, and you're moving backwards and you're circling out, okay, there's a such thing in boxing called the rhythm step, where you kind of just get your stuff together, reset. Okay, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Every time Klein was trying to reset, Landwehr was on his ass. So there was no resetting. It was constantly on your heels, constantly, all right, I need to catch that breath. As soon as you go in, on your ass. So you're like, damn, I can't even get my breath in. Like, yo, bro, back up off me. Like, let me. And that's the beauty of the style of Nate Landwehr, of these bully pressure fighters, is they don't let you catch your second breath or that second wind or get that timing going. And listen, man, that's how they get you. The grinder style. They weaponize pace. We talk about it all the time. Nate Landwehr, shout out to you. Huge, huge win. Move on to the next one, AJ. We talked about it already, but Manon Fiorot, she gets the big unanimous decision win against Mayra Bueno Silva. 8th win in a row, AJ. She moves to 3-0 in the UFC. Finally has somebody on her resume in the UFC that we could say, okay, that was a good win. That was definitely a good win. However, I wanted to ask you about the methodology of this win, the style of this win, the approach of this win. A lot of people were giving her a little backlash on Twitter talking about, why are you trying to take this fight to the ground? That is Silva's best chance of finishing you, is submitting you. Was she trying to prove a point? I think that's something we were texting back and forth that you pointed out. You're like, maybe she's just trying to prove a point and saying, I could wrestle. Now, I think that could be a good thing at times, but if it costs you a win, if it jeopardizes your chance of success, is it worth taking the risk? We always say, man, Marvin Vettori, he got a title shot off of 5 really boring back-to-back fights. You feel me? Derek Brunson is basically on the same trajectory. What did you think? What do you think about the style, the approach of Manon Fiorot against Bueno Silva?
I do think that, Derek. I think Fiorot was just really trying to prove a point and say, look, I don't only have these hands and that sidekick, folks. I can get it to the ground and I can wrestle. But it honestly wasn't the best fight we've seen from Fiorot, man. She was looking like she didn't have the power, or it might have just been because Baby Shark's Tabitha Ricci stepped in as a late fight replacement and had to jump up a weight class. So it really was putting Fiorot with somebody who's her actual size this time, with Mayra Bueno Silva. And she was looking a little bit more normal, more like a normal UFC fighter. Not like, I don't mean that with any shade at all. Just she didn't look like the absolute killer she did in her previous fight, man. And this fight, Fiorot really looked like just kind of the run of the mill. And I said it in the pre-show. I think she's a contender for one of the GOATs, Valentina Shevchenko. But this fight gave me a little bit of pause for concern. Like, maybe not. Maybe she's not that dangerous. Maybe she could be. Don't get me wrong. She absolutely could be. But the game plan of, I'm going to take this Brazilian down to where I know like Bueno Silva can choke out a good majority of people. I'm going to take her down and play that game. Oh, not necessarily, man. I think you got to win at all costs here and not prove points unless the points are presented to you to be proved, if that makes sense. I don't know. What do you think, Derek? What do you think about the game plan?
I thought that I agree with you. Fiorot looked human in this fight. She didn't look like that superstar that we saw against two fighters who, let's be honest, man, they just aren't the same caliber as a Mayra Bueno Silva, who was on the cusp of the top 15 in the women's flyweight division. I will say that throwing the same, or I say like spamming the same 3-punch combo on the feet was not a good look for Fiorot, because just like Bisping was saying, is like you got to mix it up to the body. And while I agree she was hitting the body, like we can't sit here and deny that she didn't land a million side kicks to the gut. Like that's her jab to the body right there all day long. But you need to mix up the head and the body in terms of your striking, acumen and all that, just to get different looks. Because Bueno Silva was able to either take him on the chin or just block the shots and be like, all right, what's up? Clearly, come round 3, you didn't make her pay enough to be like, I regret showboating. So there does seem to be a little bit of a power issue for Fiorot at flyweight. But then again, Bueno Silva, she's got a chin, man. She's tough. That's what I told you. That's what I liked about her coming into this, is that she's just like, what's up? Keep coming forward. I don't care. Big win, big learning experience, like I said earlier, for Fiorot, I believe. And I do think that she did say it at the end. She was like, I'm disappointed because I wanted to finish. So clearly she has the mentality. You just got to bring it out sometimes. And the thing that impressed me the most is the volume, man. She's able to keep that pace for 3 rounds. And even when she looks tired, she still keeps the same pace, which is so impressive to me. So do you think, AJ, that this win is going to age very well in the next 6 months, year? Do you think this win ages well?
Yeah, I think so. I think Bruno Silva is still an absolute killer in the division, and I think it's going to look really good on the resume, man. When she has it, it would have looked a lot better with that finish.
Oh, yeah.
But with that name on the record, I definitely think so.
Right on, man. And Fiorot, she opened as a -210 favorite, got the job done. Very chalky on that one, but a big win for Fiorot. Jim Miller, 8-10, man, gets a win over the headshot-less Erick Gonzalez. But listen, AJ, man, this is what we all expected, right? We came into this saying, come on, man, Jim Miller gets the job done. There's some of these plays where you have a young up-and-comer, and you're like, dude, he could make something happen. And he almost did, dude. He had Miller rocked early in the first round. But even when he had Miller rocked, I'm going to be honest with you, AJ, I was not worried, because I said, unless you flatline this man, he has enough experience to recover, to reset, and to get the fight in a favorable position to where, when we're talking about the wrestling, man, he just resorted right back to the wrestling. He said, you rock me? Okay, let me hold on to you for a little bit. Do the thing. Come round 2. Let's rock. I'm going to hit you with the overhand. I think it was overhand left for Jim Miller, which I was telling you about how he has that counter right. He switched it up, said, I'm going to go counter left, rear power shot, and he put Erick Gonzalez to sleep, man. That was beautiful, because that was, yes, the lazy axe kick with the hand down, which you're taught to never throw a kick with your hand down. But sometimes, being loose, being careless, sometimes that wins you fights. Unfortunately, it lost Gonzalez the fight in this one. Do you think, AJ, that Erick Gonzalez, with a loss to Jim Miller, you can't lose confidence, right? That's a legend. Like, no disrespect to Erick Gonzalez, man. I would like to see him in the UFC again, against someone who's more of his caliber. Not a Jim Miller, but someone more of his caliber. And I think that he probably earned a little bit of respect in the eyes of the fans, right? He did for me in terms of just the being able to walk forward and say, I don't give a fuck what your name is, who you are, what you've accomplished. I'm here to fight. What'd you think, AJ?
Oh, yeah. Earned a lot of respect in my eyes, man. Got the first takedown on Jim Miller, too. Ballsy. Ballsy attempt, dude. That's crazy that Gonzalez was able. And, I mean, I think all credit goes to him stepping in against a veteran like this on the main card of a UFC event. I think, all credit goes to Gonzalez on this one. And I definitely think it earned him a contract at least, give this man a couple fights, a 4-fight contract. If there's fighters out there who are losing back to back to back to back, come on, there's room for Gonzalez in this weight class. And he proved that he has what it takes to be able to get it done. It's just against a high caliber opponent like Miller, man. It might have just been a little too soon, but earned a lot of respect. And he looked good. I mean, both fighters looked really good, obviously, until the lazy axe kick, which does sometimes, it'll help, but not this time.
I mean, listen, man, not Anderson Silva, right? Like that's a different animal right there. But I will say, listen, folks, I don't know what the prop was for knockout for Jim Miller, but I'm sure that the odds were very good on it. I will say this was the easiest money you could have made, -195 for Jim Miller. I talked about it. I said, come on, man, we see real value here. Believe it or not, AJ, this is Jim Miller's first knockout win since UFC 200. That was in 2016, man. So 5 years in between knockout wins. Now, because we know Jim Miller, he's the submission guy, man. He's going to tap you out. There was a lot of people who played second round submission. That's the bet that they put on it. So I'm sure they were a little disappointed to see it was a knockout, but you got to love it if you're a Jim Miller fan. He moves to 22-15 and 1 no contest in the UFC, man. Very, very storied career. Great record overall. I mean, north of 500, which is always good. So big win for 8-10, Jim Miller. Shout out to you. Co-main, AJ. Andrei Arlovski, Carlos Felipe, man. The thing that impressed me the most, AJ, I need to get it off my chest, is the speed of Andrei Arlovski. I have a theory. My theory is that at this point of his career, you're not going to be able to beat Andrei Arlovski unless you are the Tom Aspinall archetype. You are faster, bigger, taller, stronger, more powerful, have better cardio, have both a grappling acumen and a nice striking acumen. I don't think you can beat Arlovski unless you possess those skills. Do you agree with me, AJ?
Yeah, I agree. Like, you have to have all the intangibles stacked in your card to be able to beat Arlovski. And like I said, you need to be able to finish him, man. You can't take this dude to points because he knows how to win a fight on points all day long.
Absolutely. And that's what's most impressive, man, is to be able to do that, to outclass all of these people, just becoming a smart, wise fighter. Sometimes they say it's a bad thing, right? Because you're less willing to take chances and take risks. Arlovski, he says, I know I have 2 rounds in the bag. Even though, AJ, we say never leave it to the judges. He's still, he's a OG veteran. He probably gets the benefit of the doubt sometimes. But also, man, he's got nice volume, man. He starts off with a lot of movement, but he is a big guy, so that does taper off after time. But the thing that was super impressive, AJ, was that when Carlos Felipe would try to go in with these big shots, Arlovski, jab, you know what I'm saying? In and out, you know what I'm saying? Like that technical straight line, point A to point B, I'm in, out. I'm just going to keep tapping you up, tagging you, calf kick, I'm just doing all these little things to keep you busy and to make myself look a little more better on the scorecards. I will say that his volume from round 1 to round 3 tapered off substantially because Felipe actually came completely back in the numbers. I was watching because I told you, AJ, for these ones, I had to go to work, so sometimes I'm watching them on the fly on the ESPN app, and it shows you the live numbers, right? So I think in the first round at the end, it was like 40 strikes to like 11 or to 15 for Felipe. Come round 3, they were tied up 81-81, and I was like, God damn, man, Arlovski, you got to keep throwing, bro. What are we doing here? Even though I picked Felipe, I'm still rooting. Obviously, how can you not root for Andrei Arlovski? So with all of that being said, AJ, man, I have one big picture question for you in terms of Andrei Arlovski. What are the odds, AJ, or not even the odds, but just tell me, like, what do you think the possibility is of Andrei Arlovski potentially somehow, some way making his way into the top 10 of this UFC heavyweight rankings in the next year or two?
I mean, top 10's a little bit better, but the problem with Arlovski is like how he made it so well is he was multi-dimensional. He was able to stand it up, have that pace, have that speed, have really good head movement, but also take things to the ground when he needs to. And we just haven't really seen it as of late for Arlovski. And when you fight dudes like, Alexander Volkov, even Curtis Blades, Augusto Sakai. Well, Augusto Sakai, not so much. Chris Dawkins is a good one as well, though. These dudes got hands, and they can take things to the ground. There's multi-dimensional, very fast. There's a lot of Tom Aspinall. There's a lot of dudes that are coming up that are just that new style of heavyweight, and I think it's going to make it hard for Arlovski. Top 5, not so much. Top 10, maybe. Pretty good. What do you think?
I just think it's going to be incredible to see the man do it, man. This is a dude who started in the UFC in 2000, the year 2000. I was 4 years old, AJ. Like, that blows my mind. That blows my absolute mind that the man is 42 years old, making another run. And I'm not going to rule anything out, man. But I do think once you start putting him against the real stiff opposition, not even in the top 15, we're going to run into some problems. Because I'm not going to say that he's fought cans or bums, because that's not the truth at all, man. But we saw what happened when he got put in front of Tom Aspinall. That was very easy work for a Tom Aspinall, right? And that's a high caliber prospect on our hand. Like I said, AJ, put some respect on the man's name. I don't know am I the only Tom Aspinall fan? Am I his biggest fan? Like, what the fuck is going on? Why does the man not get any love? I don't understand it. But listen, man, huge win for the Pitbull. Second win in a row, moves to 21-14 with 1 no contest in the UFC. So let's just compare those records, man. Neck and neck. 21-14, 1 no contest for Arlovski. 22-15, 1 no contest for Jim Miller, man. These dudes are legends, and I'm just glad we're able to watch history happen in real time, man. But okay, AJ. Main event. I have to be honest with you, my man. I'm getting home because I just at work I just see the result, right? I see decision Dumont. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. 47, 49, 47, 50, 40, all that good stuff, right? And I'm just like, okay, she probably just like in my head how I visualized it. Dumont took Aspen Ladd to the ground and just laid on her for 5 rounds. When I came home to watch the fight, AJ, I said that is not what happened at all. Dumont just had a glorified sparring match, dude, for the first 4 rounds of the fight, right? Where she's just like chilling, standing in front of her, jab, right cross. You know what I'm saying? Chilling. She didn't get a bloody nose until I believe the end of the 4th round or the 5th round or something like that. And listen, man, Aspen Ladd, psychological issues. But one big thing we need to talk about here, AJ, because listen, first off, all respect to Norma Dumont. She fought the fight that she needed to fight. And Bisping, he said it perfectly. It takes two to tango. It's hard to really put it on somebody when they're not willing to engage or to fight you. So why not just sit back and just earn an easy dub? Like, I don't see why not. I don't fault to Norma Dumont whatsoever. But one person we need to talk about here, AJ, is Ladd's coach, Jim West, who is under fire for some of his quote-unquote harsh coaching tactics, AJ. He was saying things like, all right, like first round, he was chill. He was all like, hey, all right, you know what I mean? First time back, we in here. Let's do these couple adjustments, get into it. Round 2, he says, okay, shit just got real, dude. You need to fucking fight. Like, what is going on? Round 3 comes on, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. You need to do this, X, Y, and Z. Round 4, more of the same. Round 5, fucking, go. Just go. And shout out to Mike Perry, where he was all like, I hate when my coaches are just telling me to go. Like, you go, motherfucker. Like, I'm not trying to get hit right now. Like, so maybe Aspen Ladd was thinking a little bit of that. Dumont is big. She is powerful. But I need to ask you this, man. Do you think the coaching of Jim West was uncalled for? A lot of people were saying that it was, let me just say it like this. A lot of people were saying that he is taking like a parent approach to Aspen Ladd and that he is demoralizing his fighter as opposed to helping her in the cage. Give me your response, and then I'm going to tell you about a former UFC champion who has a lot to say about Jim West. So give me your response first.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that one up, Derick. I think it all depends on the mental state of Aspen Ladd.
Sure.
I'm gonna personalize this one a little bit. One of my close buddies, man, he used to be a little bit chubbier. I won't drop his name, he might even want me to, but either way, he used to be a little bit chubbier. We'd always give him shit. We talk shit, clown him a little bit. This dude had one of the biggest come ups because of the bullying, because we were fat shaming him. Now this dude's 6'2", just jacked with big legs, like looking good, man. I think it all depends on the mental aspect of the people that's having it done to them. Where in this fight, I think the words of Jim West were perfect, because in the breakdown, in the fights, in the 1s and 2s, we didn't really know what Aspen Ladd was doing. She wasn't fighting her fight until round 5. But it all depends. If coming from a coaching background, if you're able to fire the fighter up, you're able to get that burn going. You're able to make them excited and want to okay, yeah, that's the way you can go about it. Sure, the aggression in your tone makes a lot of sense. But for the words, I think they were perfect. But we just saw in Aspen Ladd's eyes, she wasn't even wanting to look him in the eyes. She just wasn't didn't look excited, didn't look passionate to be there. And I think that's where a lot of the heat's coming from on this one, because I think the words were perfect. She just didn't know what she was doing. She just kept throwing those little ones, and she would move her head and not really throw anything, where all they were asking for is throw that 2, throw it from the backside. And when she circles out, hit her with the check, left hook. We didn't see that at all happen. Get her to the ground, shoot a single leg, do something. She had her press up against the cage the whole time, was trying to get that high crotch going, but instead of dropping down to a knee, dropping down for an actual takedown, she stuck there and played. So overall, it depends to me on the how the person handles the words. Because I'm a fan, man. I don't think words can ever hurt me. You tell me the truth. I want to know the truth so I can do something about it. If Aspen Ladd isn't that kind of mental, it doesn't have that kind of mental fortitude, you're just being a bully, and no one likes to see that going forward. What do you think?
I thought that was a really great assessment, man. And I will say this, coming from the coaching background, as you were saying, right, you do know that there is no one-size-fits-all approach in coaching. That does not work. You need to cater your advice to your fighter. So that's one thing that Bisping had said. He was like, listen, I don't know their relationship enough to really make the harsh comment of saying that he is being an asshole, that he's not saying the right things, because if he knows that's what motivates her, well, then do it. Of course, you like it when she's winning, but we don't like it when she's losing. So in between round 2 and 3 against Yana Kunitskaya, he basically did the same thing. What did Aspen Ladd do? She got motivated. She knocked out Yana Kunitskaya, right? Left hook, got the job done. It was all praise and all of that when that happened, but now she's losing. It's an issue. So I see an issue with that, AJ. And then let me give my comment on this. I agree. I do believe that the words of Jim West resonated to me. All the advice, the actionable advice was all there. Now, the issue that I do understand, because I felt it a little bit too, was the tone. And I know, AJ, this is the fight game. What the fuck are we talking about? Tone? Oh, you have too harsh of a tone. You're getting punched in the face. Like, what are we talking about here? However, I do agree that the tone was more of a, I'm reprimanding you, I'm yelling at you, you're upsetting me. So that maybe did lead to a little bit of the like, dang, like as if it's like a father-daughter kind of situation. Because in coaching, man, it gets weird, and that's how it is oftentimes. It's very much like a parent-son or parent-daughter type of situation, whether it's male or female. Nonetheless, if that fires her up, then okay, cool. You know, it is what it is, man. But in front of the camera, there's no crowd. You know, you could hear everything that they're saying. It's just like, you know, I don't know, man. I don't think Aspen Ladd was responding to the advice very well. I do think she was getting it in her head, but I think that she was doing too much of the thinking. I think it made her think too much instead of just going. So when he would tell her, you need to do this, you need to do this, all this very technical advice, sometimes that's not what you want to hear when you're in the heat of the battle. You want to hear something that maybe is more of the motivating type, you know, just go in there, you know, give it, you know, all that good stuff. But it's a fine line, man. And when neither of us really have the status, the symbol, we're not there. This is not our spot to judge necessarily, right? But it is something interesting to talk about. And the reason why, AJ, is because I want to then compare this to Valerie Laredo when she fought and got defeated by Hannah Guy, and her coaching advice was very pointed. Didn't have the same tone, but it did have the notion of, you're losing, stop throwing spinning attacks. Like, you need to hit her with like all these combos. You need to land at least 50 punches in this round if you want to win. All that, like basically all the bullshit you're doing, stop it. Do what I need you to do. We train for this. Let's rock. This is basically the same situation, but forgive me because I don't remember Valerie Laredo's coach's name off the top of my head, but he did not nearly get the same backlash as a Jim West did. So overall, with all that being said, long rant aside, what do you think about that, AJ?
I mean, I think it all comes down to how the fighter responds, because, you know, as a coach, you know your fighter so much, and we just didn't see that response in a positive aspect for Aspen Ladd. It really did. I think you hit the nail on the head. It looked like she was being talked down to and being punished, and she was acting like she was being talked down to and didn't want to come back for it. Because if she's in there and that's the stuff that fires her up, yeah. But I think just in this one, she needed to know that somebody was in her corner supporting her and saw what she was seeing or saw what she was doing and needed to change it, instead of what the fuck are you doing? You know, because nobody, like, you can't, like, if somebody asked me that in a fight, I don't know, man, I'm fucking just swinging my hands, buddy. Like, you tell me what I'm doing. I don't know. Apparently it's not working. So yeah, it's hard to say, because if that's how Aspen Ladd responds, all credit. You know, that's who it is. That's how your coach should know you. You should have that relationship with your coach where he knows exactly how to talk to you to light that fire. But I think in this instance, instead of the demeanor of, I'm reprimanding you, he needed to be, you know, hey, what are you doing? This is how you need to fix it. Okay, here, I'm here. We did this together. You know what you can do. Let's get it going, instead of, what the fuck are you doing?
And that's actually part of the problem to me too, man. He was asking her questions, and I'm like, she's not going to answer your questions right now, bro. He's like literally looking at, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, as of, like, I asked you a question, answer me. And it's like, dude, she's trying to get her breather. She's about to go in and fight for another round. So that was a little problematic too. But let me tell you what a former UFC champion, a former UFC bantamweight champion, specifically with the nickname Cupcake that goes by the name Miesha Tate, what she had to say about Jim West, man. So she says, in a series of tweets, she says, quote, "This is abuse. What a douche," first and foremost, right? Then follows up by saying she would have done, so basically she was replying to a comment that says, well, I don't see the problem because, you know, he did that to her against Kunitskaya, and Kunitskaya, she ended up knocking her out, so this shouldn't be an issue, right? And Tate responded by saying, she would have done that without him. It's who she is. He will take credit for her win, but never for her loss. Trust me, she can only take so much of this abuse before it breaks her spirit. Just in a quick assessment of that, do you agree? Do you have any response? What do you think about that?
I don't necessarily agree, because like I said with my homie, the abuse, the talking down to made him change and like, yo, fuck this. I'm not standing for this shit. I'm gonna do something about it internally and personally. Where it all depends, again, like I said, on Aspen Ladd. I think this is a little bit of Miesha Tate speaking from her. If somebody was talking to her like that, she wouldn't be able to stand it. So that's where I think this is coming from. But it all depends on a case by case basis, as your coach knows you. It's hard, though. It's really hard.
I agree with you, man. That does make a lot of sense, because it's not black and white. It really just depends on who you're talking to. Just like in any coaching situation, any leadership, if you want to be a personal trainer and you want to motivate somebody to go and get it in, you have to know how to press the certain buttons. Just all the great coaches in the world, they all know that, man. But we spent so much time talking about Aspen Ladd. I just want to finish this up giving a big, big shout out to the immortal Norma Dumont, man, racks up another win, moves to 3-1 in the UFC. This is her third win in a row at her new weight class of featherweight, where she is establishing herself. And AJ, man, because we're running pretty long on this one, man, I don't have too much to say. We're going to move on to the matchmaking next, but I just need to say that for Norma Dumont, man, it impressed me so much how she didn't feel the need to do something crazy. This was more or less of a smash spot for her after the first round. I think she realized, okay, man, I'm chilling. I'm in the driver's seat of this. Easy win. I'm just going to fight my fight. And now maybe she could come back in just another couple of weeks or whatever and get another quick turnaround, because she took very little damage. Yeah, you had a little bloody nose or whatever. It was like one elbow, but you should be fine. Rate this performance 1 to 10 for Norma Dumont.
I have it an 8. An 8. It looks really good. Like she said, I don't really fault her too much for not pushing the pace a little bit. She looked like she had Ladd frozen with that jab, man. That jab was popping. It was on fire, and she was able to keep rotating, get on her bike, keep it spinning, and keep it moving. I really liked Norma Dumont for this fight. She didn't look like she was too stressed. Looked really good. Like I said, an 8, man. Looked really good.
Yeah, I'm going to go an 8 on that one too, man. And I just will say the takedown defense impressed me the most, man. 100% takedown defense for Norma Dumont. The only time that she was on the ground is when she got reversed. She got swept by Aspen Ladd, which is where Ladd had her most success, when she was just doing the fiery ground and pound, you know what I mean? Donkey Kong style. But big win for Norma Dumont once again, AJ. All right, folks, that is the main card breakdown. You know what we do here? We do it all the time. We basically hit on the prelims, the main card, the whole entire card for you. So, shout out. This is another one in the books. Always appreciate it. Now, real quick, AJ, let's move through some matchmaking, my man. Let's start off with the train. Nate Landwehr came in at number 36, jumps up about 2 spots to number 34 because Ludovit Klein, believe it or not, was ranked 45, even though he was the huge favorite. So he's ranked about 10 spots back. I have an interesting matchup, AJ, if you don't mind. I want to start it off because I want to know what you think about this. The winner of number 32 ranked Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, and number 25 ranked Sting Sungwoo Choi, on October 23rd. I think the winner of that fight needs to fight the train next, man. What do you think?
I saw that one up there as well, Derick. I think it'd make a great fight. Both of those dudes have amazing style. I also had, for me, man, Daniel the Pit Pineda. Okay. I think it'd make a good one as well. Ooh, but in any one of those 3 fighters, I think they have like the area where we need to see Landwehr get a good fight in, and I think it'd be a good step up if he can get it actually done.
I think that Pineda fight would be a banger, bro. That's blood and guts right there. I like that. I think I like that one better than the one that I got. So, all right, man. Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye out on that one because that is a good one. Number 23 ranked, yeah, right? Get us on the phone, right? Number 23 ranked Manon Fiorot, the beast, man, in the women's flyweight division. I think she could jump up a solid 3 spots to number 20. Mayra Bueno Silva was ranked number 22. And AJ, man, who do you have for this one? What do you think is next for the beast?
Now, this might be a little bit too far of a step up. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I think we need to step up Fiorot. I think we need to see what she can do. And I want to see her against Miranda Fear the Maverick, bro. I think that's a good fight. I also have another one in there, but I think Miranda Maverick is the way to go. Excellent on the feet, excellent on the ground. We're able to see how real deal Fiorot is going forward. What do you think?
I agree with you. I had the same name. I said this is her opportunity to jump into the rankings against number 15th ranked Miranda Maverick, 9-3 on one fight losing streak, if that's what you want to call it. But I think we can call it a robbery. I think that's a more aptly named assessment of the situation. But I think that this will show who's truly ready to take that next step in the flyweight division. Because as unfortunate as it is, it does truly feel like Miranda Maverick lost a lot of steam with that loss against Maycee Barber, which is crazy because I think she won the fight. She was the next big thing, and now it just feels like it got quiet all of a sudden, which is why I hate that this is a what have you done for me lately type of sport, but I think this can get a lot of hype back on her name since now Fiorot is the next big thing in the flyweight division. And real quick, AJ, because I forgot to mention it, Maycee Barber, when she her first fight back after tearing her knee up against Roxanne Modafferi, this reminded me a lot. Aspen Ladd's performance reminded me a lot of Maycee Barber's performance, where she was just jabbing the air from like a million miles away, not able to kind of get in her range and do her thing. So maybe I should have took into consideration the 2-year layoff for Aspen Ladd before I picked her to fucking win, right? But it's neither here nor there. So yeah, Miranda Maverick across the board. I think that one works out, man. 8-10, Jim Miller, number 29. He doesn't get any change because, believe it or not, Erick Gonzalez is not even ranked in the worldwide rankings on Tabology. Which then makes you wonder. You're like, how the hell did you get a UFC shot? Just, anyways. Listen, man, I think that since he just got a big win, or since the man that I want him to fight just got a big win against the Carpenter Clay Guida and Marco Madsen, number 32 ranked, I think it only makes sense that you fight Jim Miller next, man, right? Is this not what we're doing? What do you think about that matchup, AJ?
I like that one. I like Marco Madsen as well. He's on the come up, or a little bit more on the come up. Yeah, I'm with you on there. I also had Renato Moicano, just because I think it's another good, interesting fight. On the come up, where A10 Jim Miller, they're both excellent on the ground. I think it'd be interesting, but either one of those I like a lot.
Okay, that'd be fun, man. Heavyweight division, number 18th ranked Andrei Arlovski, who now moves up to number 15 right after the big win against Carlos Felipe, who was at number 27. AJ, I've been talking about him this whole time. It only makes sense for me. The gloves have come off. Andrei Arlovski, you keep winning, and now you forced me to do this to you. You got to fight King Kong next. Alexander Romanov. I have no other options for you, my man. I cannot deny my man Romanov a shot at the top 15 just because I want to keep seeing the Pitbull get some dubs. 15-0 is Alexander Romanov. Listen, man, truly a test to see who belongs in the top 15. And Andrei Arlovski, believe it or not, man, I am now aptly naming him the super gatekeeper, the Pitbull, Andrei Arlovski. What do you think about that, AJ?
I had a feeling that's where you're going from the beginning of the show, Derick. I think I actually like that fight a lot more than what I had in place, man. I was going Sergey Spivak just because I also think Arlovski needs to get up there, but I like the King Kong Romanov pick way better, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to get it down sometimes, AJ. And then one more right here. I'm going to start off with Norma Dumont, man. Listen, there's no featherweight women's ranking, so I don't know where exactly that I can place her there. And I needed to say this, AJ. Where do we go with Norma Dumont? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless the UFC signs Kayla Harrison, which that's the rumors, right? And they build a division around Kayla Harrison, I mean, the featherweight division for the women is essentially useless, right? Will Amanda Nunes ever defend her title ever again? Like, we don't know, Should Dumont get rebooked with Holly Holm? Well, Holly Holm was only going to take that fight because no one wants to fight her at bantamweight. So what would that fight even do for either of these fighters at that point? The only fight that Dumont could potentially, is working for right now is a fight against Nunes for the featherweight championship. But that, like I said, it's not even guaranteed Nunes is going to defend her title again. There's too many questions at hand. So for that reason, I actually don't have one for this one, AJ. I have nobody that I can see Norma Dumont fighting because I think the UFC is going to have to very, very much cherry pick and, hand pick somebody to just keep her kind of active, since they did move her to Vegas, let her use PI, all that good stuff. What do you think about that, AJ, and who do you have?
I'm with you, man. This was a hard one. I went Holly Holm just because that's who she had booked, but I agree, it doesn't really do anything. There's no, without the actual division of the 45ers, there's nothing. There's nothing going on. It's hard to say. I have to say sign Kayla Harrison and let's get this ball moving because they don't even have UFC doesn't even have any other fighters besides Megan Anderson ranked at 145, or excuse me, they don't even have a ranking at 145. But they don't have anyone else with a 45 next to their name besides Megan Anderson, who has already beat Norma Dumont. Yeah. So it's like they have 3 fighters. What are we doing here?
Exactly. And I will say Megan Anderson, I don't think that she's currently on contract with the UFC. So you have basically nobody. Listen, man, Norma Dumont, she was a former bantamweight fighter. She might have to move back down. Remember, it wasn't that long ago when she fought Felicia Spencer when we announced it was the end of the featherweight division. And here we are, somehow, some way, just still putting on fights. I don't know. It's interesting. But all right, that's the matchmaking, folks. So yes, UFC matchmakers, Dana, Sean Shelby, McMaynard, give us a call. We're making your job too easy over here, folks. What are we talking about? All right, AJ. Last thing before we get out of here. Word on the street. I just got a couple of things that I need to talk about. The former flyweight champion, Deiveson Figueiredo. He's officially switched camps, my man, and he's moved to Fight Ready alongside former 2-division UFC champion Henry Cejudo and his coach, Erick Albarrachin. So I apologize if I butchered the name, but Albarrachin seems to be how it's pronounced. Now, I have to give you a quote, and you give me a quick take. Quote from Deiveson Figueiredo. I come here because the main thing was the focus, and I wanted to be out of my gym. But I wanted to be with Cejudo and Erick because he's the champion, and he made the champion. Lions walk with lions. I love to be here, and when I arrived, Cejudo told me about Brandon Moreno, what Brandon Moreno did with him. Moreno lived for 2 years in Cejudo's house, and after that left for another camp to help Benavidez fight Cejudo. He betrayed Cejudo. I'm going to be very happy in taking Moreno's head off and giving it to Cejudo because in our sport, you can't be a traitor. That's some big talk for a man who got first off a draw with Moreno in the first fight and then got starched in the second fight and is hoping. Basically, the only reason he was able to get a rematch, a trilogy fight, is because Alexandre Pantoja, I don't think he was ready to take the title fight in time. He had an injury or something. So this is very big talk for the former champion. What do you think of that, AJ?
I like the move to Cejudo's camp. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's right, man. The only way you get better is training with people that are better than you. Interesting. A big talk though.
Yeah.
Big talk coming forward. I'm not a fan of Cejudo's coach. Like him and Ali Abdelaziz talk way too much for not stepping in the cage and actually scrapping. But I do like the fact that he's training with Triple C. Call him the cringe all you want. I don't really like the personality, but homeboy can scrap, and that's really what it comes down to. Absolutely. I think it's going to be very interesting, especially having the inside knowledge of how Brandon Moreno fights. It's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, man. How lightly do you take the phrase when someone more or less says they're willing and ready and are aiming to decapitate you, take your head off and give it to Cejudo? How lightly do you take that?
Not lightly at all, bro. That's life or death. It's I see you on site. You say that to me, it's on site, bro. We fighting. That's like telling me you're gonna take my lunch money almost. This is real right here. So you don't take that lightly at all, man. There's I forget who said it, but he said you don't say those kind of things, bro. You can joke around, you can say all this, but you say you want to murder me, bro. That's like coming after my family. Nuh-uh, brother.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's what's interesting to me is just because it's like there was so much respect that he showed after the second fight. And then to come back and say, now I want to take your head off, you're a traitor. It's like, okay. You're just making yourself look a little worse and worse. Like he went full heel, basically. He's full heel at this point. All right, AJ, last thing. Despite 2 losses to Israel Adesanya in head-to-head matchups, man, Marvin Vettori has no doubt he's superior to the UFC middleweight champ. This is the quote. He says, he was very smart in there. Marvin Vettori is saying this about Israel Adesanya. He was very smart in there, and he fought a very smart fight. With that being said, he wasn't better. He wasn't better at all in general. He wasn't more skilled. He didn't have more cardio. He didn't have more anything, really. He was smart. He knew he was a champion. He didn't really want to engage with me with a lot of things, exchanges in general. Delusion here, AJ. Just like Deontay Wilder saying he didn't respect Tyson Fury after Tyson Fury knocked him out for the second time, the thing that Fury said that was so philosophical is that you will, and this is someone who actually dealt with depression and alcoholism and all that himself. He says, you will never be able to move on as a man unless you accept these things. And then you can move on. Then you can move past it. But if you keep denying these things, you will never be able to grow as an individual. You will always stay in the same static loop because you are not giving yourself the opportunity to accept the past and just move on to the new, man. Why do you think this man won't let it go? I know ego and pride is for all of these fighters, man, but just listen, be like, hey, man, he got the better of me. Respect. It is what it is. I wasn't the better man that night. What do you think?
I think it's just him trying to build a fight because it was so uneventful and so one-sided that I think he's just trying to say he built a fight. And my favorite thing about this is Adesanya hit him back with, "Isn't smart better?" Yeah, right. Come on, man. You fight a smarter fight. Duh, I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. That's the whole thing. I think this one's just Marvin Vettori trying to build a fight up, and it's about it. I think it's absolutely delusional if what he's saying is thinking because Adesanya had him beat in every category across the board.
Well, if you look at it, man, after the fight, Vettori, he was all like, listen, man, Vettori didn't really give the respect to Adesanya that he deserved post-fight. And it's just one of those things, man, where you hate a sore loser. That's really it. Come on, man. Win with grace, lose with grace. But if you can't accept your defeat, man, I don't know. They say it like a real samurai or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Death before dishonor, right? I lose, I gotta go and fucking kill myself because you know what I mean? I shamed my family name or whatever, but all respect or whatever. He was the better man. Sucks, I gotta do this. That was a little extreme, but you get the gist, folks. You get what I'm trying to say here. It's all about the Bushido, man, the warrior code. You know what I'm saying? But all right, AJ. So listen, man, this was another fight card in the books, my man. Our next week, we got a preview of Paulo Costa versus the man we're just talking about, Marvin Vettori. So here we go. We don't have a poster for it yet, folks. So no preview for the poster score next week, but we will clearly have that up on Friday, man. So Mondays and Fridays, you know what time it is, 8 a.m., noon. Short clips drop on Mondays and Fridays. It can all be found on our YouTube page. Type in Free Thinkers Club on YouTube or type in Bloody Water Podcast. Either one gets you to our videos. Make sure you share them, like, and subscribe. The biggest thing, folks, is 80+% of you guys that tune in and week out. Literally, I got the analytics. I got the stats. 80+% aren't subscribed, but you're tuning into the videos. You're liking and all that good stuff. So we would just appreciate if you just hit the button right on over here, somewhere on the screen. There we go, right there. Subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. It's for free. Free 99, man. We ain't asking for much, but we appreciate the support as always. AJ, got any last words for the people?
That's it, Derick. You're already checking out the videos, man. Go just hit one little step right below. Just click that subscribe, hit the like, let us know a comment, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Biggest thing though, Bloody Water Podcast. Both of us are above 500
Yes,
on
sir.
them picks. That's better than a lot of those people out there actually on like ESPN or actually on like any of the bookie sites out there. You know where to come get your actual good information and make yourself some green, folks. Come on, tap in, hit us with some likes, help us out, get a little bit broadcasted out there. That's about it for me, Derick.
Absolutely, folks. So listen, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. We'll do it again. Until next time, folks. Peace.